If you are a Christian, if you are married, or if one day you hope to stand at the altar and vow your love before God, you must stop everything and listen to me now. Do not treat this as another passing word or another voice among many. This is not a story told to stir emotions or to entertain the restless mind. What I am about to share with you is a testimony carved into my spirit by fire. I spent 37 minutes in the place of eternal judgment, and what I saw there concerning marriage, concerning vows, and the secret life of husbands and wives has terrified me beyond words. My name is Marie Williams. This may be the most serious message you will ever hear. For the things I witnessed are not distant. They are not fables. They are not for other people in other lands. They are near. They concern you. They concern the promises you have made, or one day will make, when you stand before heaven and bind yourself in covenant. Do not think lightly of this. Do not excuse yourself by saying you are faithful enough, pure enough, devoted enough. I too thought I was safe, and yet my soul was shown the chambers of torment where those who trample marriage burn without end. I tell you the truth. The veil between here and eternity is thinner than breath, and once it tears, there is no going back to rewrite what was done. So I ask you, no, I beg you, do not hear me with casual ears. Listen as if your eternity depends upon it, because it may. What I bring is not imagination, but memory. It is not invention, but revelation. I carry it as a vow, for God allowed me to return only so I might speak these words to you. If you are married, if you are preparing for marriage, if you have ever spoken vows of love, then these words are your words. Take them into your soul, for they are not given to me for myself alone. They are a warning. They are a fire. They are truth. This is the hour to listen. This is the moment to stay awake. This is the testimony that could decide where you spend eternity. If you refuse to subscribe, what will you say when God asks why you kept silent while others walked into the fire? Your silence may not only cost you, but the souls you could have reached. If you will not subscribe, at least enter the comments and explain to the judge of eternity why you chose silence. You may think this has nothing to do with you. You may imagine that hell is far from your footsteps, reserved for the violent, the wicked, the openly corrupt. But I tell you, I saw with my own eyes where people like us end up if we ignore God's warnings. I walked among faces that once prayed, among lips that once sang hymns, among women and men who once stood in white garments at the altar and whispered vows they thought eternal. I saw their faces contorted with torment, their mouths repeating words they could no longer escape. I promised. I broke. I betrayed. Do not shield yourself with illusions. Do not wrap yourself in the comfort of outward religion. You can sit in a church pew for 40 years and still fall into the abyss. You can carry a Bible and still be chained by pride. You can wear a wedding ring and still be guilty of desecrating the covenant it represents. Hell is not filled with strangers. It is filled with those who once thought themselves safe. I tell you the truth. I was one of them. I lived with the quiet conviction that because I prayed sometimes, because I gave my offerings, because I knew the language of faith, I was secure. But beneath the surface, I was careless with love, reckless with words, and proud in my rebellion. I was blind to the eternal weight of marriage, blind to the sacredness of vows spoken before the face of God. When He called my name in the dark, it was not to comfort me. It was to awaken me. It was to tear away the veil of pretense and show me where my path was leading. And now, because mercy brought me back, I am bound by a vow stronger than iron. I must warn you. I did not return from that place with stories to entertain, but with wounds that still burn. I did not return with fables to frighten children, but with visions etched into the marrow of my bones. What I saw cannot be erased. It follows me when I wake. It haunts me when I sleep. And if I kept silent, the silence itself would condemn me. So I speak, not from arrogance, but from obedience. God sent me back to warn you, not because I was worthy, but because His mercy still pleads for you. He allowed me to live so that you might hear this cry. Do not wait. Do not delay. Do not assume you are safe when your house is burning with hidden fire. Hell does not yawn only for the unchurched, for the heathen, for the visibly corrupt. No. It waits for the proud wife who belittles her husband in secret. It waits for the husband who toys with temptation under the cover of respectability. It waits for those who wear the garments of holiness in public but strip their homes bare with cruelty and betrayal. Do you understand? It could be you. The line is thinner than you think. The path is closer than you dare imagine. I did not expect to find myself there, yet I did. And what I saw has left me trembling with both sorrow and burning love for your soul. He called my name in the dark, and now, through my trembling voice, he is calling yours. Return to the fire. Return before it is too late. Return before the vows you speak become the chains that bind you. Return while mercy still stretches out its hand. For I tell you again, I saw where people like us go when we ignore God's warnings, and I would rather wound you with truth than comfort you with lies. Every view of this testimony is a chance to sound the alarm. If you subscribe, you help carry the warning to others. But if you turn away and do nothing, their blood may be on your hands. If you dare not subscribe, then step into the comments and confess why you chose not to lift even a finger to save another. I grew up in a house where silence was louder than words, where unspoken wounds filled every room. My mother suffered quietly beneath the weight of humiliation, and I watched her tears fall in secret, hidden from the world but carved into the heart of her child. I told myself I would never be like her. I promised in the secret places of my heart that I would never bow, never yield, never allow myself to be broken by a man. That secret vow became my armor, my shield, and I wore it so long that it fused with my soul. When I stood at the altar years later, dressed in white, speaking vows that sounded holy in the ears of those gathered, I carried that hidden vow with me. Outwardly, I was a bride, radiant and new. Inwardly, I was already hardened, already closed, already bent toward rebellion. I did not enter marriage with open hands. I entered it with clenched fists. At first, my husband was gentle, patient, kind. He loved me without condition, but my heart was suspicious of tenderness. I could not receive it. I took his love and treated it as weakness. I used my words like whips. I dismissed his voice as though it carried no weight. I belittled him in public, cloaking my cruelty in laughter. Friends called me strong-willed, and I liked that image. But what they praised as strength was nothing more than pride dressed in fine clothing. Slowly, I grew colder. Slowly, I built walls not only against my husband, but against God. The prayers of my youth became empty recitations. The scriptures I once held dear were left unopened. The altar where I had once wept became distant, irrelevant, unnecessary. I told myself I was free, but in truth, I was already bound. I began to feed on attention that was not mine to receive. At first, it was harmless conversations, so I told myself. A glance here, a smile there, a lingering word that did not belong to me. But sin never remains small. It grows, it multiplies, it devours. Soon, I was entertaining dinners that should never have been shared, secrets whispered in places where only shadows could hear. And from there, I descended further still, into betrayal, into infidelity, into a darkness so subtle that I thought I was in control. But I was not free. I was a prisoner. My pride was my chain. My rebellion was my cage. My lies were my shackles. And through it all, heaven was watching. The vows I broke in secret still echoed in the courts of eternity. The covenant I treated as common was still etched in fire before God's throne. I tell you this not to glory in shame, but to reveal how silently a soul can descend while the body still smiles. Sin rarely shouts at the beginning. It whispers. It entices. It convinces you that you are still in control. But by the time you realize its grip, you are already bound. This was my life. A life that looked whole on the outside but was cracking within. A marriage that looked stable to others but was poisoned at its roots. a soul that looked alive in the light of the congregation, but was already darkened by rebellion. And yet, in his mercy, he did not let me continue forever. For one night, as I lay beside my husband, my heart still beating with lies unconfessed, something happened that I cannot forget. The room grew still. The air turned heavy. My body froze where it lay. And slowly, as though unseen hands were pulling me from the earth itself, my soul was drawn out. I knew in that moment I was leaving life behind. I was not dreaming. I was not imagining. I was awake, fully awake. My breath was gone from me, my body lifeless, my spirit descending. And in that moment, in the silence deeper than death, he called my name in the dark. This may be your last chance to stand with truth. To subscribe is to declare, I will not be silent. I will carry the message of warning. To ignore it is to gamble with eternity itself. If you choose not to subscribe, then confess openly in the comments why you believe your soul can afford to ignore the last warning. One night as I lay in bed, something happened. My body grew cold and a silence deeper than sleep fell over me. I tried to move, but my limbs no longer answered me. My husband's breathing was steady at my side, but I could not reach him. My lips would not part to call his name. My heart thundered like a drum, and then, like a curtain ripped apart, my soul was pulled out. In an instant, I realized I was no longer in this world. It was not a dream. Dreams blur and fade. This was sharp, precise, unbearable in its clarity. Every sound was amplified, every sensation sharper than anything I had ever known. I was fully awake, but not in the body that had cradled me all my life. I hovered above the room for a fleeting second, watching my own body lie still, and then a force, unseen but undeniable, dragged me away. The air around me thickened into something I cannot call air at all. It pressed against me like liquid fire, heavy, suffocating. I heard cries, distant at first, then rising in waves until they drowned my thoughts. They were not human cries of pain that end with exhaustion. These were eternal cries, layered with despair that has no bottom. They pierced my soul. The darkness was alive. It was not the soft darkness of night, but a breathing void. It pulsed. It shifted. It wrapped itself around me as if it knew my name. My soul trembled as though all my hidden sins had risen to greet me, and I felt exposed in ways the living never understand. Heat rose from beneath me, not like the warmth of firewood or the sun, but a heat that hated me, a heat that clawed at my essence. It was alive with malice, and every wave of it whispered, "You do not belong to the light." My spirit bent under its weight. I tried to cry out to God, but my lips of flesh were far behind me. Here, in this place, every thought was louder than a shout, every fear more real than bone and blood. And in that place I realized with terror, there was no veil left to hide behind, no mask, no excuse, only truth. As I descended further, I felt something watching me. Shadows moved with purpose, their eyes glowing like embers pulled from a dying fire. They had no need to speak. I knew instinctively why they came. I was theirs to escort. My soul was heavy, bound by choices I had called freedom. What I thought were small acts of rebellion had become stones tied around my spirit, dragging me down. I was being carried into a world without exit, a prison without end. And then, cutting through the screams, through the fire, through the suffocating weight of my guilt, there was a voice. Not loud, but unmistakable. It did not echo around me. It thundered within me. He called my name in the dark. It was not the call of comfort. It was not the call of tenderness. It was the call of a judge who sees everything, the call of a father who knows every hidden room of the heart. It shook me, not because it was unfamiliar, but because I had heard it before and ignored it. I had silenced it in life. I had drowned it beneath pride and rebellion. But here, stripped bare, that voice found me again. And with each pulse of that voice, I knew This was not an accident, not a dream, not a vision spun by imagination. This was the unveiling of truth. My destiny was being revealed, and I was not prepared. He called my name in the dark. He called my name, and I trembled. Return to the fire. Return before it is too late. Return, for eternity does not forget what time tries to bury. Imagine standing at the gates of eternity and seeing the faces of those who were lost because you kept quiet. To subscribe is not about following me. It is about standing as a witness against the fire. If you refuse, do not hide. Enter the comments and testify why you believed your silence was safer than obedience. I was carried downward, pulled deeper into a place that was not silence but an ocean of screams. The further I descended, the more the air itself seemed to burn me. It was not air at all, but judgment that pressed into every pore of my spirit. I tried to resist, but resistance was like smoke in a storm. There was no escape. Then I was set upon a ground that was not ground. It was sharp, alive, breathing fire through shards of glass and molten iron. My bare feet met it, and the agony rushed through me like lightning. And before me stretched a countless multitude of women walking the same path, step after step, never resting, never turning aside. They fell, and when they fell, the ground rose in flame and devoured their legs until they staggered upright again. A voice, calm, unshaken, relentless, spoke within me. These are the ones who broke the covenant of marriage. They despised the vows they spoke before me. They treated what was holy as common, they betrayed the husbands who trusted them, and they shattered the homes they were meant to guard. Their promises became ashes, and now their steps are fire. The words pierced me deeper than the flames, for I knew my vows too had been treated lightly. I remembered the day of white garments, the ring upon my hand, the trembling words spoken before witnesses, and I remembered how quickly I had thrown them aside for pride, for rebellion, for selfish desire. I walked with those women. Their cries could have been my own. He called my name in the dark. Return to the fire. I was then drawn into another place, a valley not of walking but of silence broken by shrieks. Women knelt with tongues nailed to red-hot iron posts. Their mouths were stretched open, and demons passed slowly by, dragging blades across their tongues from end to end. Each cut was a river of agony, but even as the wounds closed, the knives returned again. There was no end to it. The voice said, "These are the ones who turned their tongues into weapons. They lied, they mocked, they cursed the men I gave them. They whispered slander into the ears of their children. They ridiculed what was sacred, and with words they destroyed what hands had built. Now their tongues but judged by the same fire they once unleashed." I fell inside myself as I heard this, for I remembered words I had spoken, careless, cruel, sharp as a blade. Words meant not to heal but to cut. I thought of how lightly I had laughed when I shamed my husband in front of others, how quick I had been to humiliate, to belittle. And now those words rose again in judgment, each syllable turned into iron across my soul. He called my name in the dark. Return to the fire. Return before your tongue condemns you. Then I was taken to another field, where women were bent low, crawling with enormous sacks strapped to their backs. From within the sacks, fire glowed and coals spilled out, eating through their skin. Their spines cracked under the weight, their flesh burned, and the smell of scorched bodies filled the air. Each time one tried to pause, a shadow pressed down harder, forcing them forward. And the voice said, "These carry the weight of stolen trust. They robbed their husbands of honor. They robbed their homes of peace. They used money for themselves while their families went in need. They carried vanity as treasure and selfishness as their crown. Now they carry what they stole, not as gain, but as fire." The memory struck me. I saw myself hiding what was not mine, using what was meant for the home to feed my pride. I saw myself justifying indulgence while scorning his labor, and I knew I was no different from those crawling women. I too had carried stolen trust upon my back. Return to the fire. Return before the wait becomes eternal. Then the path turned to a corridor so narrow that its walls pressed against me, and upon those walls, glowing like molten script, were vows, promises made at altars, words spoken in trembling sincerity. Some were mine. For better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to honor, to cherish, to love. But here, they were no longer gentle. They burned like living fire, branding my skin with their accusation. At every door along the corridor, women knelt in chains, repeating their vows over and over, their voices hoarse with regret. I promised to honor you, but I despised you. I promised to be faithful, but I betrayed you. I promised to love, but I chose hate. The sound of their repetition became a dirge, an endless hymn of broken oaths. And the voice said, "Marriage is not a human contract. It is a covenant before me. To break it in selfishness is to break with me. Their vows rise against them, and their own words have become their chains." I looked down, and my own ring burned on my finger like iron fresh from the forge. I wept, for I saw that I too had spoken words in his presence, and then broken them without fear. My vows were not forgotten. They had followed me here, and they were fire. He called my name in the dark. Return to the fire. Remember your vow. Then I was carried to a plain stretching farther than eyes could see. Women stood in lines, their necks bound by iron collars that glowed red. Each time they tried to bow their heads, the collars tightened, searing their flesh. Their faces were proud, unyielding, even as agony consumed them. And I knew this was pride made eternal. The voice said, "Here stand the ones who refuse to bow. To me, to truth, to love." They exalted themselves above correction. They scorned humility as weakness. They would not yield to the covenant I gave. Pride chained them in life, and pride chains them forever. And I trembled, for I saw my own reflection among them. The tilt of the chin, the refusal to admit fault, the disdain for correction. I had lived as though pride were power, but here it was a collar of fire. Return to the fire. Return before pride becomes your prison. Finally, I entered a hall of mirrors. Yet these were not mirrors of glass. They were mirrors of truth. Each one showed not the body but the soul. I looked, and what I saw was unbearable. My soul appeared before me as twisted, scarred, chained by wounds I had fed and sins I had excused. Every betrayal replayed itself in full. Every selfish choice rose like smoke around me. I could not turn away, for the mirrors were everywhere, pressing in from every side. The voice said, "This is the mirror that every soul must face before me. Here there is no disguise, no outward holiness, no mask. Here the truth alone stands. What you are is what you see." And I wept, for I realized that even the good I had done was corrupted with pride. The charity I displayed was for reputation. The words of humility were spoken for approval. My soul was bare, and I was undone. He called my name in the dark. Return to the fire. Return, for truth will strip you bare in the end. One by one, I walked through these places, and each was both torment and revelation. And with every step, I realized something greater than the pain of fire, the pain of truth. Hell is not only flame, it is memory without mercy. It is the soul stripped of its lies. It is eternal confrontation with the choices we made when mercy was still offered. And through it all, that voice never left me. Not once. It spoke in thunder, in whispers, in silence that burned. He called my name in the dark. And now, beloved soul, he calls yours. Every subscription is a strike against the chains of hell. Every act of silence is another link added. If you believe in freedom, subscribe now. If you choose the chains, then go to the comments and write your reason. Let the world see why you refuse to bar." I was brought at last to a threshold unlike any I had seen before. The darkness that had wrapped me so tightly gave way to a vast opening, and before me stood a gate. It was not made of iron or stone, but of light and shadow interwoven, a barrier alive with both invitation and warning. Its brilliance was so fierce that I could barely lift my eyes to it, yet its shadows reminded me of everything that still clung to me: my pride, my rebellion, my betrayals. Behind me, the screams of hell rose higher, as if the abyss itself refused to release me. Every cry I had heard in those chambers of torment swelled together into a single voice that beckoned me backward. The ground trembled with their sorrow, and I felt hands unseen pressing at my back, urging me toward the pit from which I had come. And then, the voice came again. Not the screams, not the shadows, but the one who had followed me through the fire. "Now choose, life or death, heaven or hell." The words were not shouted. They were not angry. They were quiet, solemn, and final. They cut through me with the certainty of eternity. This was the moment upon which everything hung. There would be no second chance beyond it. No appeals, no excuses, no turning away. I trembled, for I knew I could not step through the gate as I was. My sins clung to me like chains. My lies, my pride, my betrayals. They were not behind me, they were upon me. They wrapped around my soul as though welded into my being. The gate shone with purity, and I knew it would not open for one who still carried such corruption. And so, with shaking voice, I began to speak. One by one, I named the sins I had hidden in life. Every betrayal I thought secret, every cruel word I thought forgotten, every vow I thought dissolved in time. I named them aloud, though no lips moved, for in that place the soul itself was the tongue. Each confession tore at me as if part of my flesh was being ripped away, yet with each word spoken, I felt a chain snap and fall. I confessed my pride, and it burned out of me like fire. I confessed my rebellion, and the weight on my shoulders cracked apart. I confessed my lies, and a shackle broke from around my throat. I confessed my betrayal, and the stones tied to my soul crumbled to dust. The pain of confession was almost unbearable, for it felt as if I was being burned alive from the inside out. But even as it scorched me, I felt a strange release. The fire was not consuming me. It was purging me. Behind me, the screams grew louder, furious now, as if hell itself mourned the loss of one it thought it owned. The shadows clawed at me, stretching like talons, trying to pull me back. But each time they reached for me, the confessions that left my lips became like swords, cutting their grasp away. And then, I spoke the final word. The last secret I had held, the sin I had buried so deeply, I scarcely dared name it. When it left me, it tore through me like a wound. But the moment it did, I felt the last chain break. The weight that had bent me low lifted. The darkness recoiled, and the gate of light began to open. A wind, gentle and pure, swept across my face, the first breath of peace I had felt since leaving my body. It carried with it a fragrance I cannot describe, the scent of a place untouched by corruption. The shadows hissed and shrieked, but they could not stand before that wind. They scattered like ashes in a storm. And as the light poured through the widening gate, I knew mercy was still being offered. I knew the blood of Jesus had not forgotten me, though I had forgotten him. I knew that heaven still reached even into the depths of hell to rescue one who would confess and turn. He called my name in the dark. He called my name, and I answered with confession. He called my name, and the chains fell away. The gate opened fully before me, and I stood trembling, knowing that one step forward would change everything. I had seen where pride leads, where betrayal burns, where vows broken become eternal chains. I had walked the corridors of despair and felt the flames of justice. But here was a door into life. The voice spoke once more, gentle but unyielding. You have seen what awaits you if you remain as you were. Now walk, For I give you this chance not because you deserve it, but because my mercy still calls." And I stepped forward. The screams behind me faded. The shadows shrank. The fire receded. And the light, pure and unbroken, swallowed me whole. I had chosen life. He called my name in the dark, and I followed him into the light. When the gate of light swallowed me whole, I thought my journey was ended. But mercy was not finished with me. For even though I had stepped into the radiance, I was not permitted to stay. The same hand that drew me from the abyss pressed me back toward the fragile shell I had once despised. I awoke in my body again. My chest heaved with a gasp as though I had been drowning, and breath returned like fire in my lungs. Tears streamed down my face before my eyes could open. My hands trembled as if the chains of hell still clung to them, and my skin burned with the memory of vows written in flame. Beside me, my husband stirred. He reached for me, unaware that his wife had just walked through the chambers of torment, unaware that she had stood at the very gate of eternity. I touched him with shaking fingers, not out of habit, but with reverence, as though I were touching a treasure I had once thrown away. My heart broke open as I realized the gift I had despised, the covenant I had stained, the love I had wounded. In that moment, I vowed with all the strength left in me, never again. Never again would I return to the pride, the cruelty, the betrayal. Never again would I treat lightly what heaven calls holy. God had not only saved my soul from eternal fire, He had placed a burden on me heavier than my own breath. He gave me a mission, to warn others before it is too late. Do you hear me? This is why I speak. Not to entertain you, not to frighten you for a passing moment, but to plead with you as one who has seen too much to remain silent. You think you have time. You think you can play with pride, with lust, with broken vows, and still return at the end. But you do not know how close the veil is. You do not know when breath will leave your chest and your soul will be required of you. I wept through the night after I returned, my tears soaking the pillow as though they could cleanse what my pride had stained. I rose from the bed and walked through my home like a stranger in a familiar land, touching the walls, the table, the ring upon my finger. Everything ordinary was suddenly sacred. Every breath was mercy. Every moment was borrowed time. And I heard it still, His voice echoing through me like fire through a cavern. He called my name in the dark. It was not only for me, it was for you. It was for every wife who has allowed bitterness to poison her covenant. It was for every husband who hides in secret sin. It was for every believer who treats vows as words instead of fire. It was for every soul who thinks hell is for someone else. I tell you the truth. I cannot return to who I was, because I carry the memory of eternity in my bones. I cannot walk as I once did, because I have walked through flame. I cannot stay silent, because silence would be betrayal. So I stand before you, trembling but resolute, bound not by arrogance but by obedience. God spared me to deliver this testimony, and I will speak it until my final breath. Return to the fire. Return before pride becomes your prison. Return before vows become chains. Return while mercy still calls your name. Because one night I lay in bed and thought I was safe, and then He called my name in the dark. Don't take this lightly. Do not treat these words as another story that passes through your ears and fades into the noise of life. This may be the last warning your soul will ever hear. I am not speaking for myself. I am speaking because mercy dragged me back from the edge of eternal fire, and I vowed to tell you what I saw. Hell is real. Marriage is holy, and eternity does not wait for your convenience. Every second you delay, every chance you shrug away, is a step closer to the fire I walked through. Do not say, I will change tomorrow. Tomorrow is not promised. I lay down to sleep in the comfort of my bed, and I woke up walking through flames. Do you understand? The veil is thinner than you think. Death does not announce its arrival. It does not ask for permission. It comes, and when it comes, your destiny is sealed. He called my name in the dark, and now he is calling yours. Not gently, not casually, but with the urgency of eternity. He is calling you to repent, to return, to tremble before the God who still offers mercy. If you hear this and turn away, if you harden your heart, if you dismiss this as exaggeration, then your silence may become your judgment. But if you hear and obey, if you repent and surrender, then the fire you deserve will never touch you, for Christ has already borne it in your place. This is not just for you. Someone you love is walking blindly toward the same abyss I saw. Someone you know laughs today but will scream tomorrow if no one warns them. If you keep this to yourself, their blood will cry out against your silence. But if you share this, if you let the truth ring out, then you have become a watchman sounding the alarm before the city burns. Do not hesitate. Share this testimony now. Share it with your family, with your friends, with those who think they are safe but are already chained. Do not think of it as spreading a video. Think of it as pulling a soul back from the edge of fire. And subscribe, not as a gesture, not as a habit, but as an act of obedience. Each time this word is carried further, another warning is given, another chain is broken, another marriage restored before it is too late. Do not underestimate the weight of one choice. One click could be the difference between a soul that finds the gate of light or a soul that is swallowed by eternal darkness. I beg you, in the name of the one who spared me, do not delay. Repent now, pray now, share now, obey now. Tomorrow is a lie. Eternity is certain. He called my name in the dark, and tonight he calls yours. Return to the fire. Return before it is too late. Return while mercy still waits for you. Because if you turn away, the same flames that licked at my feet may rise to consume you, and there will be no escape. Don't take this lightly. This could be your last warning.